In the dusty archives of history lie the blueprints of a nation's dream. In 1935, after centuries of colonial rule, the Philippine Islands stood at the precipice of destiny. Behind every document, every signature, and every battle fought was a man born of fiery conviction, Manuel Quezon, a soldier, a statesman, and a leader who refused to let his people remain in the shadows of empires. November 15, 1935. Before thousands of roaring citizens outside the legislative building in Manila, history was sealed. As the joint colors of two nations flew side by side, Manuel L. Quezon raised his hand to take the oath as the first president of the Philippine Commonwealth. Inside the grand halls of Malacañang, there was no time for celebration. Governed by the strict mandates of the Tidings-McDuffie Act, Quezon navigated a delicate political chessboard. He argued, debated, and demanded true autonomy from American advisors, determined that the Commonwealth would not merely be a puppet state, but a sovereign government in waiting. A nation divided by geography and hundreds of dialects could not stand united. Quezon envisioned a singular identity, a voice that could bind 70,000 islands together. On December 30th, 1937, through Executive Order 134, he proclaimed a national language based on Tagalog. It was a bold, controversial stroke that laid the foundation for modern Filipino identity. In classrooms across the archipelago, seeds of unity took root. Children who once spoke only regional tongues began reading from the same books, sharing the same stories, and speaking with one voice. Quezon had earned his title in the hearts of his people, the father of the national language, ang ama ng wikang pambansa. But unity meant nothing without fairness. Deep in the rice paddies of central Luzon, tenant farmers labored under burning suns while wealth accumulated in grand estates. Quezon saw that true freedom demanded economic dignity, championing groundbreaking social justice decrees and minimum wage laws. He brought the presidency out of the palace and into the muddy fields, assuring the working class that the Commonwealth belonged to them. April 30th, 1937, a quiet revolution swept the islands. After decades of relentless advocacy by suffragettes and backed firmly by President Quezon, over 400,000 Filipino women marched to the polls. By overwhelming majority, women unlocked the right to vote, reshaping the democratic landscape of the nation forever. As storm clouds of hatred gathered over Nazi-occupied Europe, doors across the world were slammed shut in the faces of desperate Jewish families. But in Manila, under the moonlight of 1938, President Quezon opened his heart and his country. Defying international indifference, Quezon issued over 1,200 visas and offered personal land in Marikina, saving countless families from the horrors of the Holocaust. It was a beacon of humanity in humanity's darkest hour. December 1941. The horrors of World War II struck the Philippines with brutal fury. Japanese Zero fighters rained fire over Manila and Manila Bay, shattering decades of peace. Ill and suffering from tuberculosis, President Quezon refused to abandon his post, forced into the humid, subterranean darkness of Malinta Tunnel on Corregidor Island. December 30th, 1941. Beneath meters of solid rock, surrounded by the sound of artillery, Quezon stood flanked by General Douglas MacArthur and Vice President Sergio Osmeña. Weakened by illness and coughing heavily, he took his second oath of office. Though his body was failing, the fire in his eyes burned undiminished. Escaping by submarine under the cover of night, Quezon carried the government in exile across the Pacific to Washington, D.C. From a wheelchair in the White House to the podium of the United States Congress, Quezon used his remaining breath to plead the cause of his people, demanding liberation and justice for the Philippines. August 1st, 1944, Saranac Lake, New York. Far from the tropical shores he loved, President Quezon lay listening to radio reports of Allied forces pushing closer to his homeland. As the sun shone through the pine trees, he looked toward the Philippine flag hanging near his bed. Before he could see his beloved country liberated, Manuel L. Quezon closed his eyes for the last time. He gave his final breath to the nation he fought a lifetime to build. Today, high above the bustling capital that bears his name, the Quezon Memorial Shrine stands tall against the sky. But his true monument is not made of stone or marble. It lives in the language spoken by millions of students, in the votes cast by free citizens, and in the enduring spirit of a compassionate, sovereign nation. Manuel L. Quezon, first President of the Commonwealth, father of the national language, a champion of social justice whose voice echoes through the ages. Until our next journey, remember that history is not merely something we study, it is a legacy we have inherited.